My voice is the worst. I apologize. All right, and we're back. Another reason why I like IK, I just kind of feel like I can push and pull these things a little bit more, get that S-curve a lot easier, you know, where I get to separate out the rotation from the translation so much easier this way, so you can get a whip. I don't know, it's my preference. More neutral.
What's your preference with eyes in terms of workspace or
local? For me, I have never been successful with world space eyes. It always, they start to get like, it's kind of the same thing with like FK arms, that you lose that connectivity, and at the end when the shot is also, just so we can talk, since we're talking about eyes, I'm not paying attention to eye line at all. Just angle of the head, where the neck is, all of that. I'll do eye direction and face in one pass, just going through all these key poses. Because right now it's just, for a shot like this, it's just about body mechanics. For a shot like Brent's going to do, the face would be in every single one of those poses. From this distance, the general expression needs to be exact, but like the exact eye line right now doesn't matter at all. But since it becomes this noodling thing anyways, of you know, frame by frame, making sure the eyes are exactly in the right spot, local gets me in a better place, and it feels like the eyeballs are actually sitting in their head and they're not these like weird, I don't know, I feel like I see the computer too much otherwise, if that makes sense. And every once in a while I'll check it in 3D and be like, it's good enough. To me it doesn't matter if it's perfect in 3D. That I think it should be close, you know, especially, you know, things in stereo now and yada yada yada, but I don't particularly care if it's not perfect, because you're crafting this image, you're not crafting an image from another camera. I had many arguments with supervisors of my own in the past who would be like, turn that around. What does that look like from the back? It's like, I don't really care. Alright.
So in this sense, once the feet go off camera, do you keep paying attention to the feet?
I do. I usually do the feet unless it is like chest up. If it's even like hips, I'll generally do the feet. I'll do the poses for the feet at least this far, and then just, you know, spline. It doesn't matter, it's spline. But I want to make sure, because I like the mechanics of this. It's actually why I liked this clip, or this piece of video reference, is I like there's this little like, that little stutter step is not something people do in animation, because if you're not using video reference, if you're just going straight ahead, you're never going to make that choice, because it just doesn't come naturally, and if it does, damn, good job. But that's why I need video reference, because it's like, that is a fun, that shows like energy and excitement, and like he's so angry that he's skipping forward, and I wouldn't necessarily do that if I were just going straight ahead blocking.
So you're never in the graph editor for blocking?
No. No, I'm not. Maybe eventually I'll do some. It depends on the shot. This one probably not, just because I'm trying to cook through it. But maybe eventually as I'm breaking it down, you know, using Tween Machine and all that jazz, just to make sure I'm not completely screwing myself up for later. It's not one.
For shots like that they're leaning on stuff, you switch it to IK and like you worry about like the contacts and stuff like that when you're blocking?
I do actually. I block all that stuff out. That's usually when I get most specific about hands. Is on that stuff. I like doing that stuff. You know, Ralph was awesome for that because he was just two giant friggin' hands, which was really fun. Nick Ranieri did a test. I think it's online early on. That 2D test. You guys see that? Where because Nick was like the hand man, right? You know, Hades and everything else. And he did that test early on where it was just like it was a little over animated, but at the same time it just showed how much his hands could be a presence in his shots. And I for one thought it was great. So I tried to put that in as much as possible.
How about when they're interacting with other characters as far as the contacts and stuff that way? Does that kind of hold off a little bit?
A little, yeah. A little. As much as you need. But yeah, I'll go through and do a cleanup pass on that later. It's also why I picked not that for this demo. It just takes a lot longer. I mean, and that goes, you know, just speaking as a supervisor, that goes into bids and stuff too. If it's two characters touching, I don't care if it's, you know, if it's 60 frames, it's going to be a much longer bid. You guys all know what I mean when I say bid? No. So as supervisors, what we do is we go through, we look at all the shots as they're coming out of layout, and we will bid them, meaning we will say, okay, an average animator, or what it should take, is, I don't know, that's a week-long shot. That should take an animator 5 days to animate. And then that is the bid that the animator is given, so that you get the shot, and you're like, okay, here's your shot. It's been bid at 5 days. You have 5 days to do it. You might get a chunk of shots, so you might get like 3 shots in a row or something like that. They might all be 5-day shots, so all of your shots are due in 15 days. But you should allocate on your on your time card 5 days per. It's just a good way of for us to check how people are keeping up with the requirements set forth by the supervisors, and we try to be realistic about how long it should take. But we also have, you know, dictated down by the producers and everything else. You have, you know, how many hours you can spend on the entire film, so you're trying to make that happen as well. This is not at all what I want, actually.
When you step through the poses, like what do you look for? What's the eye standing?
I'm looking right now, I'm looking at the hips, and I'm realizing that this step probably should have been out a little wider in order to get this one from here to here. I kind of like this because I'm getting a nice, I'll be getting a nice arc at some point, but there's something nice in the video reference about it maintaining in screen space. If you watch the hips and the shoulders, it's kind of going off this way and getting this to be a little bit lower so you can get more of an up there, so you get that pop. So you're getting the difference from this pose to this pose. You see the head going up and the paper going down. It's going to be a nice little pop later on. So I'll have to get that left to right arc a little bit differently. Oh, thank you. That didn't work. Okay. Is this all clear as mud so far?
I'm going to order pizza soon, so it gets here around 12. Anybody who doesn't want pizza?
You're an alien.
Yeah. I was going to get a mix of, usual pepperoni, veggie. Anything specific that you want? Caviar?
Food allergies.
Caviar.
White caviar.
You are fancy.
I'll collect money later on. You guys have cash?
Got cash.
It'll be, I don't know, $5, $7. Like when you give notes on blocking, what are the top 3 things that you want to kind of comment on?
Clarity is always number one. A lot of times people, you always think it's clear. It's clear to you. But that's my big one. Clarity in posing, clarity in staging, clarity in ideas. Is the emotion right? Is the staging right? I mean that's within the context of a film, continuity, whatever else. Then I would say I don't really on blocking. I don't necessarily do appeal unless like rough blocking. Let's separate it out. Rough blocking versus like blocking plus, which is usually how I like to show. This will be kind of rough blocking. Blocking plus is when I'll have broken it down to 2s and 3s. I'll show it both stages because I want to get the director's feedback before I go into spline, because it's kind of like there's no going back now, which there always is going back. So I don't do a whole lot of appeal. I do a lot of mechanics, this type of stuff where it's like, does it feel like once you do start breaking that down that's going to work? I try to catch as much as I can for people. Little shakes, like the little wire rot that I added there eventually is going to give like a little bit of an overlap to the chest, a little bit of weight to the chest. So I'm looking for that stuff. The biggest one though really is clarity. Posing, mechanics, clarity. 3. Check. What's also nice about this process for me is I don't have to play blast for a while because I already did. And I did it in the video reference. I retimed the video reference. I liked the poses for the most part. And if there were multiple takes that I cut together, I made the choice of what pose I want on what frame. And so I know that I can kind of trust myself to just go straight ahead. That's why I turn off the dialogue and everything else. This is an interesting one. This is kind of like a moving hold, sort of. So like I'll also sometimes set a key it's not a giant change here to here, but it is the key that you'll eventually have before you go into this other stuff. So I'm kind of stamping it at this point, but then also still checking the mechanics of what is happening.
What phase of the animation would you say you spend most of like your big time on?
I'm 50-50, I would say. Blocking and polish, as you'll see. Hopefully I can get to that stage. Spline, between spline and polish is not a very big step for me. Because I break it down to 2s and 3s. It's kind of splined out. So I'll hit spline, it'll be like, it's not bad. You know, I don't have, like, 'cause if the further spaced apart your key poses are, the more you're going to get this ambiguous computery in-between zone that I don't like. I'm not good at muscling through that stuff. That's why I prefer to break it down between machine and in posing. So then it becomes track the hips, track the chest, track the shoulder, track the elbow, track the wrist, track the nose, track, you know, that stuff takes forever. And then getting all the gushy connectivity of the face, which I think Brent will talk a lot more about, just because his is so much closer up. But that's something we're pushing really hard on in Big Hero 6. I never flattened that out, did I? That was a bad key. I should go to 0. This is the only time you'll see my graph editor for now, when I fix my own mistakes. We're big on, what we're pushing hard on is the, kind of the squishy, squashy face stuff. Not in the cartoon sense of squishy and squashy, but in the caricatured reality sense, where, you know, I think a lot of times in animation, it's very easy to separate out the different parts of the face. This side of the nose moves, but like in a real face, there's a muscle that's pulling this way, that's pulling that skin up, and then that's connected to other skin. You know what I mean? So like, all of these things have to move together, and so we've tried to put a lot of love into the rigs to, you open the jaw and it pulls everywhere it needs to go, and you can kind of squash stuff around and make it feel like everything is connected. So I'll do a pass at that on here too, just as far as like, again, I don't use my face for the actual shape, but I will use it for like, this is kind of like a stretch shape on my face, and you want all of those things to relate. If we where is that? Turn the face on. You know, if you pull this up, like he kind of has it in the rig, but I want to make sure that this moves up too a little bit. Oops, I grabbed something else. I want these guys to move up and kind of feel like this skin is pulling on this skin, that's dictating the shape of the eye. You know, this is a pose that Marlon did actually for me. And it's great because it feels connected. There's a muscle pulling this together, you know, that moves up this skin, you know, which pulls up this part of the lip, and just trying to make it feel as much like muscles and skin as possible. Obviously you don't want to go hyper realistic. We had that on Hulk. We had this let's turn this off. We had a literal muscle face where you controlled the flex of every muscle in the face, and it did what that muscle does, which was pretty awesome in that you kept it very real, but at the same time, in more animated stuff and less realistic, in you know, animated feature film, stuff like that, you want to be able to craft it graphically, but I like trying to find the balance of graphic and real-ish. You know what I mean? I will also a lot of times, oops, hotkeys. even in blocking, I'll jump in a tween machine just to, like I did that way too much. You know, just to pull back on a pose, but keep it within the channels that I was using. I try to keep my stuff as clean as possible. At the end of the day, though, I really don't care if it's clean or not. I know a lot of people are very anal about their curves. Shit. Don't delete the head. I'm not particularly passionate about the cleanliness of my curves. I feel like I need more tilt throughout all this stuff.
When you get notes on blocking, especially on mechanics, how do you approach that? Do you blast,
Cry.
cry, and then what?
Was that on it? It depends. It depends on how big the note is. One of the nice things about this method of kind of hacking together video reference and retiming and everything else in Maya is if I get a note in blocking, it's pretty easy. Just cut in a new piece of video reference, cut out those frames that are still in stepped anyways, and reblock that section. It becomes a bit more difficult. It's probably going to be more like this, isn't it? It becomes a bit more difficult when you're in spline and you get that, but even still, I don't really have a problem with, I just want these, yeah. Blowing out a section and starting over. I think a lot of times people get a little bit too attached to their choices. Why don't we just pose this out? I don't know why I'm waiting until later to do this. Everybody loves a spiral grip. Don't do paddle hands. If I see paddle hands on a demo reel, like this action, drives me nuts. Be specific, make a choice, you know, be realistic about, but be pretty, you know, about what hand poses you're making. There's so much good reference out there, and you have them on your arms. You know, it drives me crazy when I see like all the fingers curled the same amount on every digit, you know, or like a point that is like they curled everything in and this is straight. It's like, I don't know, like that is different than like weird CG hand, you know, like make it specific. It doesn't take that long. And that's why I don't do a ton of poses with the hand in blocking, but you can make like a nice pose. It's not that difficult. No, right fingers. Does that work? Yeah, good enough.
Do you show your stuff to your colleagues a lot? How do you get feedback
All the time.
besides dailies?
I show, well, so, oops. On Tangled, I was lucky enough to be in a room with 5 other new people, because that was my first show at Disney. I was in a room with 5 other new people, and so we were like, what the fuck are we doing? Which was great, because we were like super scared, and so we showed our stuff to each other all the time. And then on Ralph, I shared a room with Nathan Engelhart, who teaches with Marlon, Patrick Osborne, who also teaches Marlon, and Adam Green, who does he?
Yeah, next year. Yeah.
Marlon abducted our entire room. And so that was awesome. I had Nathan like right behind me, so I was constantly showing him stuff. I usually will show a person my video reference to bounce ideas off of. You know, I think we're all, as animators, we're all pretty good at dissecting the video reference and being like, this one has more texture, or this one, which is actually why I picked this clip as well. There's little like the little skip, little head shake. There's like little textural things, because this is a challenging clip in that it's 3 just blah blah blah, and to not just animate it as like pose pose pose, to like work little things in between. It's kind of that like, it's the milk call thing, right, where he with oh my gosh, somebody help me out. Tiger, Jungle Book. Shere Khan, thank you. You know, there's that like famous clip of dialogue where he does the like before he starts talking, like that type of stuff. If you can work, that shows character thinking, character, you know, like animating from the inside out. That character is fully thinking, and that's what I liked. That's what I thought I kind of got in this, was like there's these little anticipatory head shakes, and there's just specificity to this, and there's texture to this that I think will help break up the sound of just being A, B, C.
So how many takes did it take you to get to the one that you liked? I mean, was it 6 or 7, or did you go back, shoot once, and then do it again? I mean,
I did them all in a row.
Okay.
It was just one really long, I just kept doing it over and over. Well, it's about a minute and a half of me picking up the paper that I threw down in every single shot. So there was a lot of me just like walking around. But this was probably my 4th take. I probably did 6 or 7 after this that I didn't feel were as good. There was one other one that I kind of liked, where I threw down the paper first, because I went back to that as like, well, it was my original instinct, and usually my original instinct is right, and then I deviate and I find out that I was wrong the second time and I should have gone with the first one. So I tried it, and it worked pretty well, and it had some nice texture, and there was like this weird like finger waggle thing that I did on lose, and that's the stuff that I'm always looking for in my video reference, is like, that's unique, you know, that's not animation, pose, you know what I mean? It's like there's like these weird specificities, which I do weird stuff, which usually kind of helps feel exaggerated and animated, without being overacted. All right, let's move on to another pose. I'm actually going to skip this one for now and go to this one. We'll do that other one as a breakdown. So there's like a probably here-ish. I'll do a breakdown, but because there's so much going on in the head that I'll want keys for, just the way those pieces are moving apart from one another, I'll do those as breakdowns and keep it a little bit more broad strokes. Foot bank.
Zach, you worked on Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
I did.
what was different in terms of approach to that show compared to maybe at Disney?
Well, that one was different from a lot of things. So I think we all kind of learn animation in a specific way, and kind of the more in the more traditional sense of like what did Disney do when they more or less invented animation way back in the day, and what were those principles of animation that those guys established and everything else. And so I learned it that way, which is, I over-animated and everything else, just like I think every beginning animator does, because it's fun. And then I went to Rhythm and Hues and kind of got the exaggeration beat out of me, because we were working in visual effects and because it needed to remain in this physical world. But it was a really cool duality that I got to play with, because my instinct was to go pretty cartoony, but was trying to find where that cartoony landed in a real world. And so I was there for a year and a half, and then when I went to Sony for Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, it was, hey, remember all of that stuff you did on Hulk and Mummy? Throw all of it away. Everything on Cloudy was, you make like one choice for the entire shot, and you make it just that one thing, which was a really cool lesson for me in self-editing, which has helped with my work even at Disney, because a lot of times at Disney it's all about simplifying. On Tangled, it was kind of like Cloudy, and it was like, how much can you take out and still have it be what you need? Cloudy was that to like the nth degree, because it was like, see that motion you did? Remove it. And you're like, but I'm an animator, I want to move things. And they're like, not on this movie. But at the same time, it forced you to make like, what is the best decision, and what is the one best clear read, and how do I get that? But you had to remove, I want a moving hold here, or whatever else. No moving. You don't do moving holds. You don't do long cushions and stuff like that. It was like, pick your choice. Choose your choice. That's redundant. And like, that's it. Boil it down, and it really helped, because when I got onto Tangled, I had some shots of Flynn in the pub where he's hanging up on the hook, and they take him down and they ask him to sing, and he's like, what does he say? Sorry boys, I don't sing. And the first time I acted it out, I was like, sorry boys, I don't sing. And they were like, take it back a little bit. So then it was like, sorry boys, I don't. It was like smaller, and it was like, can you take like all of it out? And I had like a big take when the swords came in and all this stuff, and it became just like one pose, a little bit of like my chicken neck, and then no reaction at all when the swords came in, and it gave it so much more punch. And that was something that Nathan and Byron were really good at, being like, they were really good at editing out what was needed for the shot. How's this look? It's not bad. We'll clean all this up later, but we're getting there. We're getting there. But Cloudy was also just what is funniest. The directors were awesome in the sense that they were just like, I don't really care what you do as long as it's hilarious, which made dailies really fun and everything else. I also cheat, just so you know. If I don't have the pose that I want, and I want like a bend in the knee or something, I'll use the bend bows all over the place, instead of like readjusting the entire pose to make sure that knee is bent exactly right. It's a 2D image. As long as you're not doing it too far, work. We have to be a little careful because of cloth sim and everything else. As long as you're not cheating too much, it won't really matter. Does anyone have any questions? Sorry, I just keep blabbering.
Did the boards play into your choices and everything?
It depends on the board artist. It depends on the shot. On Tangled, the boards were much clearer and much more pinned down acting-wise than on Ralph because of Nathan and Byron's directing style. They were very specific about what every beat was going to be, and they put that in the boards. The boards on Ralph were a lot looser and left a lot more for us to explore with. And then it depends on the board artist. Some board artists are about the cinematography. Some board artists are about the acting. There's one board artist, Kendall Hoyer at Disney, who her stuff is always like, you know exactly what it's supposed to be, because she's damn near broken it down for you, you know. Is that right? Sorry, questioning myself now. It's not right at all.
One thing I see a lot in people who block stuff out is they don't get the relation of the chin and the shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
They always end up looking like straight up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in your video reference, like your head's pretty much sunk into your chest at that point.
I'm kind of a gorilla as well. So my characters tend to do that a little bit. But yes, I agree. A lot of people ignore. I think the neck and the clavicle, like this area, is so underutilized by most people because they're so focused on like, is the body pointed in the right direction, whatever. But like there is like most acting is here and here, and like a little bit in here. But people just kind of like shake the head around, thinking that's enough. But like that's why I say I do a lot of chicken neck, because I feel like, you know, like this is also a nod. You know, people will just like rotate X and that's it. It's like, nah, it's not really a nod. Like, you know, getting that specificity in there is something I'm always looking for in my video reference, and pushing it further.
When Nathan was teaching, he would get up a lot and just try to physically get into the pose. Is that something you do? Seems like you don't.
I don't.
Is there a case for that, or?
I think there is. Nathan's workflow is a little different, and he isn't as video reference heavy. He likes to feel it out a little bit more, which I'm not here to say that this is the workflow in any way. This is just my workflow. Nathan is an incredibly talented animator, and he works completely different than I do. He likes to feel it out and see what works and change some things and retime it on the fly, and I have a clear goal from the beginning and move towards it. It takes a little bit of the fun out, I would say, because I know what this shot's going to look like when it's done already. You know, for the most part. I'm going to embellish things, and I'm going to exaggerate things, and I'm going to make arcs prettier and stuff like that, but I work it out in my head, and then I act it out, and I have a very clear goal of what I want out of a shot like this. I mean, it depends on the shot. Nathan's is a little more free form, where he gets up and feels it out. He looks in the mirror a lot. You know, he has a little mirror at his desk, and he's always kind of looking at that. I make a lot of faces while I'm animating, but I don't. It's more for the feel of what I'm going for, less than what I look like. Because again, he's also a better looking guy than I am. But it's true. It's all right. So yeah, it's kind of just personal preference. Let's save. Huh? This is like the most saving I've ever done. I have animated full shots and for like not saved ever. Oh yeah. I've lost so much work, it's ridiculous. You'd think I would have learned by now. But